It's Monday Night Sports Talk on the Air Network and 94.1 FM in Huntingdon. Welcome to a Monday, the first one for us in November. And obviously, hopefully you had a great weekend. I want to say hi to my friends Jimmy Ty in Selinsgrove and Dave Shannon live in Altoona tonight. How you guys doing?
Doing well.
Doing well, Greg.
All right, that's good to know, man. You all ready for, well, I guess the throes of winter not too long from now, Dave. I'm hearing you might get some snow in the outer regions, the western part of your area, maybe tonight even.
Yeah, well, we're not going to hold our breath, and besides that, it's November, so, hey, what's the big deal? It's Pennsylvania.
It'll only fall on the grass anyhow at this point. So, anyhow, how's the weather down in Selinsgrove, Jimmy? I guess the leaves are still falling, or what?
Falling, raining today, but it's nice out. It's nice weather tonight.
All right. The only thing that really sucks, guys, I got to admit, around 5 o'clock when it gets dark, I don't think I'm ready for this, but hey, if we're not ready, it's too late, man. I can't do anything about it. I can't even legislate it. So I did want to make mention, though, our thoughts and prayers to the folks from Sutherland Springs, Texas. Of course, after that terrible shooting, the shooting at the church yesterday, man, that kind of throws everything out of whack, Dave, when it comes to sports. If you happen to be watching a sporting event and then you see that kind of a report kind of come on, it kind of makes, I don't know, it has a different perspective. It's all about life, man. Yeah,
well, I've gotten into this habit of generally if I spend a reasonable amount of time watching sports, the last thing I do before I turn in for the night is tune into one of the news channels, and I think in the back of my mind I should check to see if the world blew up while I was watching that game. And unfortunately, those are the kinds of things the last time that happened was when I checked, well, actually 2 times, both the Vegas shooting and the incident in New York City on the bike path. Yeah. Both of those were ones where I should check to see what's going on. And there they were, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, it seems to happen too frequently in society. Don't know an answer, but of course, tonight we're talking about sports. And I got to admit, Jimmy, the Penn State Nittany Lions got to be feeling pretty bad these days after losing 2 tough games in the last 2 weeks. First off, of course, we know they got beat by Ohio State 2 weeks ago, 39-38, and then this past weekend, Michigan State defeating them 27-24. I don't know. There can't be an excuse. You can't use the weather delay as an excuse.
No.
Where are some of the problem areas? Obviously, the offensive line, and I got to give you the first word because Barkley has had no yardage in the last few weeks.
No, you have to give Penn State some credit. At least they didn't get blown out by Ohio State or Michigan State. You know, they were in both of them games, and they were heartbreaking, but Barkley, he's struggling right now. Beginning of the year, we all talked about how he was the Heisman, front runner, and he's going to go to New York City and win the Heisman and this and that. But the past 2 weeks, you have to put the stats up if you want to win.
Yeah,
44 yards against
Michigan State.
Against Michigan State, and 63 yards against Ohio State isn't going to win the Heisman. And the Heisman contenders. Well, the Heisman committee is looking at these big games, not looking at a game against Iowa. They're not going to look at the game against Rutgers. They want to look at these games that are premier matchups on primetime TV, and that's what you had with Michigan State and Ohio State, and Barkley just disappeared. The one good thing about Penn State is their quarterback is put 300 yards up both games. So, he's the real, in my opinion, he's the real star. That Trace McSorley is the real star of the Penn State Nittany Lions offense.
It's Monday Night Sports Talk here on the AirNetwork.net, 94.1 FM in Huntingdon. Dave Shannon and live in Altoona, Jimmy Ty in Selinsgrove and Greg Banks in the studio. You can join us. Give us a call, 814-506-0609, 506-0609. Dave, kind of following up on what Jimmy said. Saturday's game, I don't know. First off, I'm glad I had the patience to sit through 3.5-hour weather delay. Have you ever experienced anything like that in your life in football?
No, I have experienced that while working with St. Francis University, and we had a soccer game around this time of year. And as soon as, now they actually, with the facility there, they have to have a lightning strike detector as part of their equipment in the athletic department. And when that lightning strike detector goes off, what you were seeing on TV is the way it's handled. It's 30 minutes from, the very last strike until you can actually think about restarting an event. So I have been through some very lengthy soccer delays over the course of time, but I've never seen one. And especially they had to be driving the people and all the network affiliates on Fox crazy.
Yeah. Because
that game was, should have been over by 3:30. And here it was 6 o'clock, and the darn thing still wasn't over. So if you programmed your little computer for a 3:30 end time, you just got nailed. You walked away from the Penn State game before it was even over.
Yeah,
one of the longest ones I've seen. Is that an excuse?
No.
In a way it could be, but ultimately you can't really rely on something like that. One of the things Jimmy was just talking about with Barkley's inability to rack up any yardage here of late, I have heard some comments that the offense rather is focusing too much on trying to get Saquon Barkley the Heisman Trophy. They've directed their offense in a direction that favors Barkley all the time.
Yeah.
And I think they managed to forget about some of their other lethal weapons that they have on that team. Now, one of the things that surprised me when those guys went back out on the field, and you can't tell me the multi-bazillion dollar program that Penn State football is, that they did not have gloves for the receivers to wear rather than walk around with mud dripping off their hands, trying to wipe them off in their uniforms. It's like, man, when that point in the game comes, the guys have to have those on. If you want to catch some of those, spectacular catches that you see the Penn State receivers do from time to time, you definitely have to have those on.
Yeah, you know what, Dave? I've not seen a receiver, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jimmy, I haven't seen a receiver in the last 5 years go on the field on the warmest day without gloves. Everybody is wearing gloves all the time. Am I right? I mean, they always wear gloves now. They've been doing it for the last 5-10 years. So the weather was not an excuse. Matter of fact, let me do this before we even go any further. James Franklin was quoted in the post-game interview about not making any excuses. Although he wanted to start to go there, he talked about that weather delay, how they had to order out and get some food to be brought in, sandwiches for his guys while they were sitting around. Some of them had moved to another room where they were actually playing games. I mean, you can only imagine you're in this important game with Michigan State, and then all of a sudden you've got a weather delay, of all things, and then Franklin basically talked a little bit about a distraction. We have some audio here. So here's James Franklin talking about the real distractions and about what's going on with Penn State these days.
There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise that we try to manage. When things are going well, there's a lot of noise, a lot of positivity, a lot of patting on the back, and then when you lose a game, it's the complete opposite. It couldn't be more negative, and for us in the past, we haven't worried about all those things. There's playoff rankings coming out. There's this, there's that. There's stuff that doesn't matter. The preseason rankings don't matter. Midseason rankings don't matter. You go 1-0 every single week. You respect your opponent. You prepare like crazy. You get into the submarine and you shut everything else out. And you're appreciative. When people say nice things, you say thank you very much, and you move on. People say negative things, you say thank you very much, and you move on. And it goes in one ear, it goes out the other, and you focus on the things you can control. And I would describe us as a young program. We haven't been a part of these conversations for a long time, and we haven't handled it well. And that's on me, and that won't happen again, because the formula that I know works, we're getting back to. And we're not talking about anything else. Goal setting. I don't believe in it. We're not goal setting. We're focusing on the task at hand and getting better today, waking up in the morning, doing a back handspring out of bed, and attack the day with everything we got. And at the end of the day, go to sleep and then do it again the next day.
Well, let me just say this. That's James Franklin, of course, post-game interview, and he's talking about distractions, Dave. And then, Jimmy, Dave, I think he's alluding to the fact that these kids, and he even mentioned it, internet, ESPN, playing too much into what they're hearing online throughout the week. He says a little bit about the maturity factor of these players. Where was that at the beginning of the season? I thought he was cutting all that off to begin with.
Well, apparently he was unable to, and I don't envy any coach in college football, basketball, or any of the collegiate sports,
right,
for being able to keep that stuff away from their players. I mean, what's the next step? Do you confiscate everyone's phone and then demand to see their computers and see what they're looking at on the internet? It's so tough to keep that kind of talk that he's talking about away from your players that it's virtually impossible. Heck, even at the high school level, coaches are concerned about what their players are seeing and hearing as far as the internet goes. So I'm sure they put a concerted effort toward that at the beginning of the season, but as the season has gone on, that of course has changed. So, it's a tough one. You don't want the players to do that. Maybe what you do in this particular case, if you re-emphasize it, maybe it drives it home and they start to ignore it a little bit more than what they currently are, because he obviously feels that that's having an effect on him, and he knows the pulse of his team better than any of us do.
Jimmy, you getting the feeling maybe there are too many distractions here the last couple of weeks? Actually, since Penn State started making their climb into the top 4. It seemed like once they got there, my God, all bets off.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because Penn State gets number 2, and then all of a sudden they lose Ohio State, they drop, and they lose again to Michigan State. It's lack of focus, and these are college kids we're talking about.
Right.
Every college kid has a iPhone or has an Android phone or some type of smartphone, and they're on, every college kid has a laptop computer with the internet. So, of course, they're going to, look on their phone on a plane trip. Let's say they're going to Wisconsin or they're going to Columbus or whatever. What are they going to do during their time during that trip? They're going to play on their phone and they're going to say, "Oh, look, this is what they're saying about McSorley. This is what they're saying about Barkley."
Well, guess what?
And it plays in their mind. We got to get the ball more, and then that's where they screw up. If Penn State played like they did the first half of the season with no distractions,
right,
and then they could have won them 2 games.
Well, they were probably avoiding a lot of the national attention at that time too, because obviously they weren't playing the Ohio State.
Because nobody knew who.
That's right.
They knew who Penn State was.
Let me ask you this:
everybody knows Penn State, but once they got that national recognition, like Alabama.
Oh, when you got in the top 4, when they got
in the top 4, then you had your Stephen A. Smiths, you had your Colin Cowers, you had your Kevin DeGandis, or whoever else you had out there on ESPN and Fox Sports saying, "Look at Penn State, look at Penn State." Before it was like, "Oh, look at Alabama,
right?
Look at Clemson."
Clemson. But let me ask you this, Jimmy, and then Dave. After, speaking of distractions, 3.5 hours. Think about this, guys. You're sitting in a locker room. What are you doing? Well, apparently,
in a pretty crappy locker room from what they described on TV.
That's what I'm hearing. He's telling us, Franklin, tonight, that most of his guys left that crappy locker room somewhere around the first hour of that delay and went over to the conference room where they had the post-game interviews. But here's something really interesting came out this evening on the wire service. After that victory by Michigan State, 27-24, the linebackers, Chris Fay and Joe Bakke, said the Nittany Lions running back, Saquon Barkley, told them during the fourth quarter that Ohio State was losing to Iowa. Now, this is while the game is going on.
Yeah.
Now, Fry's post-game comments about this moment were basically, I think we were midway through the fourth quarter, and I was covering Saquon Barkley down the field, and he actually, after the play, was like, "Hey, Ohio State's losing. They're down big. We're playing for a Big Ten championship right now." That's what he said to Fay. So where do you think that was coming from? Obviously, somebody had access to phones during that long delay. Would you say, Jimmy?
Yes. Yeah, oh, my God. I was just looking up something on my phone.
There's a distraction.
And it says Saquon Barkley spent Penn State's weather delay catching grapes in his mouth.
Well, I mean, come on.
And they're showing video of it.
I know. It's 3.5 hours. What are you going to do?
I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem. He knows the playbook, Jimmy.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. But my point is
I know.
What are they doing? Instead of sitting in that locker room, trying to focus. Okay, this is the score of the game. We have this weather delay. Ohio State's losing. This is our Big Ten championship.
You just said
how
earlier.
are we going to focus?
Yeah.
But instead of doing that, they're running around, going to the conference room, catching grapes in their mouths, whatever.
And their coach also ordered sandwiches for them.
Yeah, sandwiches. Yeah. This is the time when it's just like, if you guys remember, last year's World Series, they had the weather delay.
Right.
What did the Chicago Cubs do? They went into that locker room
and they watched.
Said, this is our game.
Yeah.
And they focused.
Yeah.
That's what Penn State should have did. They should have focused during that time.
You just alluded to the fact, and I'll go back to Dave. You just said that they were kids, and Franklin also said they were immature. So obviously he saw something during that delay that really pissed him off, so that when they came back out for that second half of that game, obviously they weren't focused enough, because Michigan State even alluded to the fact and even said, hey, when the guy was going back to the huddle, he told us, all right, that happens. You're a 19, 20-year-old kid. But here's the deal, Dave. When it gets right down to it, does Penn State have a chance in hell to even sniff the championship this year?
Oh, hell no.
Okay.
No, they're completely out of the
what's
equation.
What's going to happen in the Big Ten now? Because now you've got Penn State.
Ohio State holds the edge because of head-to-head.
Okay, so what happens if Wisconsin, obviously they're probably going to win out anyhow, because are they in the other division?
They're in the West, yeah.
Okay, so what if Wisconsin gets beat? No reps in the Big Ten then?
No reps.
Probably not. I mean, you got a lot of teams there. You got your Georgia and your Clemson and, and TCU and,
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. Yeah, Notre Dame, I think, is going to end up in the picture.
Yeah,
sure.
But the big game of the week is number 3 Notre Dame against number 7 Miami.
Oh yeah, that is going to be
huge.
Is going to be
huge because Miami right now, even though they're number 7th in the nation behind, I believe who is it, Wisconsin and TCU?
Yeah, yep.
Notre Dame's number 3.
Well,
so if Miami wins against Notre Dame, that's going to knock Notre Dame out of the top 3.
Yeah.
And I believe that that win in Miami's record, they're going to move up. And that game, that Miami-Notre Dame game, this weekend is huge.
And now listen,
Miami beat the number 13 team in the nation in Virginia Tech.
Right. As of our show tonight here on Monday night, if you're listening Wednesday or Thursday, it has probably changed a bit. But AP at least calls it this way: Clemson number 4, Notre Dame number 3, Georgia number 2 this week, in Alabama, of course, number 1. You got 2 undefeated teams there that are still undefeated, which would be Alabama and Georgia, basically. And like I said, Wisconsin, I think they have lost just 1 this season so far. So as we look through this thing, they probably win out in the Big Ten, although if they get beat along the way, they probably won't be sniffing. Well, they'll get a half-decent bowl. So that's where we go.
But wouldn't Alabama and Georgia play each other in the SEC championship game?
Well,
yes,
that's
they will.
True. Yeah, they will.
Yeah,
and they're both 9-0.
That's potentially going to make an opening, but not necessarily.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, if that game goes down, there's your national championship game, at least the first exposure to it. And then if they see each other again down the road, you get, the national championship game due, I guess, is what happens. So, anyhow, Dave, let me ask you this. With all the talent Penn State has, Gazeki, Kabinda, you've got Barkley. There's probably a bunch of guys that probably aren't even going to be there next year. How does James Franklin reload?
Oh, he's already started reloading. I mean, if you follow the recruiting talk, he's got plenty of guys in line already to come in, and that's what his strength is the recruiting aspect of it, and being able to go out to talk to both kids and parents and convince that kid that Penn State is going to be his best option. Unfortunately, I think in this bad stretch that has gone on, I think he has to fault his, even though Joe Moorhead has been complimented a lot about his offensive efforts as the offensive coordinator for the team. I got to say, I think he's let him down here the last couple of weeks.
Well, they're picking up on him already. I mean, enough videotape is out there on Joe's strategy.
Yeah, but there's enough videotape on the team you're playing. There's no excuses today.
Yeah. Well,
there is no excuse for you. You have immediate stuff that you're getting at the game. You have all the stuff that you studied. And if you can't make an adjustment on those two things, then you're not a very good coach. I don't want to say that Joe Moorhead is not a very good coach, but he's showing at this point an inability to adjust as the game is progressing. Well, he gets tied up, and these are the 25 plays we're going to run today.
Hey, Altoona has a sports expert. I'm not even going to mention his name. You know who I'm talking about. He followed the curve for many years. He does a local radio show, but he tends to think that this team is still going to finish 10-2 on the season and go to a decent bowl like maybe the Citrus or Outback Bowl. But when it comes to Moorhead, he says basically it's time for Moorhead to adjust or counterpunch, as Clint Hurdle always liked to say. But basically, that offense needs to change up a little bit. They're not going under center, if you ever notice. There's always that hesitation where I'm coming back and giving you the ball, okay, instead of you running to get the ball from me. See, there are certain things and there are little nuances that most people pick up on, and most teams are going to pick up on that, obviously. But even if you add a little different dimension to it, maybe like, say, we were talking about it last week, Jimmy, maybe fullback every once in a while. Change it up. You know, maybe a little bit of, I don't know, maybe, what do you call it, reversals, maybe some trickeration. You got to kind of sometimes change it up and also have your run-pass option that you might want to work on from time to time.
Yeah, one of the plays that I've been noticing Penn State does is they line Barkley up in the backfield, and then he just swings around and catches the ball on the side.
Yeah.
You know, and then he gets stopped, but for like 4 or 5 yards. You know, so they get these teams off, and this is a good practice this week is against Rutgers.
There's no doubt.
Do the flea flickers, do the reverses. You know, see if this works against a D1 school. Even though it's Rutgers, try it out.
Well, you're right.
Try it out. This is the week to try it out. The Ohio State game wasn't. Maybe the Michigan State game wasn't. The Michigan game wasn't. But this is the week. Right now, you're home. You're in Beaver Stadium. You're playing Rutgers. Right. This is the week to try out all these fancy new trick plays to see if they work. So you can have them in your bag. So when you do go to your big bowl game and you play against a Florida State or you play against a Florida, you know, you can use them. Say, hey, I remember using this play against Rutgers, or I remember using this play against this school. This is the time to use it. This week.
You agree with that, Dave? This might be the time for them to use a little bit of wrinkle, razzle dazzle, if you will, especially on a Rutgers. You know what I mean?
Well, it's a good place to practice it. I don't know that you want to let everything out of the playbook because you always want to hold things back so that if you're in, and this hasn't come up in the last 2 weeks, but if you're in a close game, you have this little trick play that you can pull out that may throw the other team off.
Right.
And so you don't want to unfold your whole playbook, but you do want to take advantage of the situation and use a couple of plays. You know, put Barkley in and let him do like a halfback option pass. Yeah. You know, some things which he's done already, but you know maybe they can do some kind of a reverse to a halfback option pass, whatever.
After all,
I agree with Jimmy. You know, it's a good place to practice and a good game to be practicing those plays in, but you don't want to unveil everything.
Exactly. Monday Night Sports Talk here on the AirNetwork.net, 94.1 FM. Greg Banks from the studio, Dave Shannon live in Altoona, Jimmy Ty in Selinsgrove. And you can join us, 814-506-0609, 814-506-0609. Time for a prediction, Jimmy. How bad is that game against Rutgers at noon going to be when Penn State comes back now, probably with a vengeance after getting beat the last 2 weeks? What's your score on the Rutgers game?
59-3 Penn State.
Okay, and Dave, what's your prediction on the score?
52-18.
All right, and regardless, guys, of how badly they beat Rutgers, they're not going to move up in the rankings. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to cause the committee to say, oh, my God, they just killed Rutgers 59-12 or something, right?
Yeah, stop the presses.
Yeah, that ain't going to happen. Hey, meanwhile, stop the presses because we have more football coming up this week, Jimmy. Your Pitt Panthers are taking on North Carolina live at Heinz Field Thursday night. Another reason for people to go to the south side, maybe get some Primantis, or maybe stop by and get some oysters and do some shucking and then go over to the game. What do you think? Pitt, North Carolina.
They're playing an okay North Carolina team.
Pitt
needs this win. Pitt needs this win because the next 2 weeks they're playing Virginia Tech and then they're going to be playing Miami. So for them to get bowl eligible, they got to win this game.
Yeah,
it's a Thursday night game. The nation's going to see what the Panthers are all about. They can, these different these smaller bowls are going to be looking at them.
Right.
This is basically Pitt's national. I'm going to say Pitt's championship game because this is the time for them to show up. And Quadri Henderson and DiNucci, they all have to play their game. And that's enough said,
Really, Dave, it's the only game in town, maybe on Thursday night, because it will be nationally televised. I think ESPN will pick it up. So your thoughts on the Pitt North Carolina Tar Heels game and the significance of that as they continue. Well, they're doing a little bit better, but they did have some tough times there early in the season.
Well, if they could pull off the win, I think that would be a signature win for them for this season, for sure. Whether they can do that or not remains to be seen, but they're certainly going to have the spotlight on that team, and it gives at least Coach Narduzzi a chance to show off his program a little bit. Exactly.
So we're hoping for the best for the Pitt Panthers Thursday night. By the way, that'll be here on the airnetwork.net. I don't even know what the pregame show is, but tune in around 7 o'clock, and I'm sure you'll be hearing something about Pitt football on 94.1 FM and also the airnetwork.net. So keeping it at Heinz Field, Jimmy, the Steelers had a bye week this week. This week, they'll welcome in the Colts on Sunday afternoon without Andrew Luck. How lucky can the Steelers get this week?
Oh, wow. The Colts, they played a good game against the Texans, even though Deshaun Watson was out for Houston.
Right.
T.Y. Hilton showed up. And if that T.Y. Hilton shows up like he did against Houston, against the Steelers secondary,
right,
it's going to be a different ball game. Jacoby Brissett's getting used to that lineup, even though he got traded from New England, this and that. He's a decent quarterback, but Pittsburgh should come out with the win. It all depends on how, we've been saying it all year long, the secondary. How's the secondary going to handle the stud receivers, especially T.Y. Hilton, against, the Colts? And that's what it comes down to.
Hey, Dave, they're going to be heading into the second part of their season, theoretically, after this bye week and, of course, getting a little rest and having 1-2 games in a row. Your feelings on the Steelers as they take on the Colts Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock. And, Andrew Luck really hasn't even been focused
on
like
the
the last couple of years, I don't think, really.
Yeah, it's been a tough go for him, and I hate to see that because he is a very talented quarterback, but the bottom line is this is the way football goes. Right. You just don't know from day to day, and that's why your career's so stinking short. If you get 9-10 years out of an NFL career, you're amongst the few.
Oh, no
so
doubt.
It's not like baseball where you can go out there, even as Jaromir Jagr's proving into your 50s, and still play hockey.
I could be a designated hitter in baseball until I'm in my 40s at least, huh?
Yeah, you can extend your career rather nicely. But bottom line is, in the NFL, that's just the name of the game. And I feel bad because Luck was a real competitive quarterback. I remember a game a couple years ago where it was just air battle supreme between Roethlisberger and Luck. And the Steelers came out on top in that game. I forget how ridiculous the score was, but the Steelers won the game. I think that was one of those. Was that a game where Roethlisberger had like 500 yards passing, Jimmy?
Yeah, that was the game. Yeah, that he also had like 5 TDs or 6 TDs in a game.
Yes. Yeah,
that was that game.
Yeah, and but Luck was heaving the ball up and having success too, and so that's but he's not there. And even though the Colts had a good game against the Texans, I don't know that means anything is going to happen this particular week. The Steelers have a nice schedule to finish out the season with.
Oh yeah.
I think they come out with a really good record, and of course they're going to get a chance to see, because it's probably going to come down to a potential game between them and the Patriots at some point in the postseason. They will get to preview that game because they are going to play that game at Heinz Field coming up yet in the Steelers' schedule. So we'll see how that one goes.
All right. Hey, Jimmy, as far as you know, when it comes to the Steelers and any major injuries heading into this weekend, I think we're in pretty good shape, and especially after the bye week at this point.
As far as I know, the injuries are very little, a couple tweaks here and there, but this bye week really helped out everybody. The Steelers are coming in a very healthy team.
What do they have to do really at this point to get through the second half of the season? Who has to really perform, other than obviously we know Ben has to, the line has to, but backfield-wise and receiving-wise, what do they have to do?
Let's say, like I said before, the secondary has to step up.
Right.
That's been our Achilles heel for a few years. Other teams know that. The Patriots know that. All these good quarterbacks know that. We can pass on them. The defense has to step up. If the defense steps up, we have the offensive firepower with Bell, with Juju, with Brown, and even with even with Martavius. Mm-hmm. We have the offensive firepower. It's just, can the defense step up and play these key snaps? And the one player who they should be playing on the field more, in my opinion, is James Harrison. He's a disruptive football player that Tomlin doesn't want to play too often because they drafted T.J. Watt, a rookie.
Yeah.
Whenever Harrison gets in the game, he usually gets sacks or he gets pressured on the quarterback. So I would say just the defense has to step up.
Dave, when it comes to the Steelers, as we wrap this segment up, how's it look? What's your feelings now from this point on as far as at least the playoffs? Because I know a lot of people were talking about a possibility of the Super Bowl, but you know what? There were times I looked at them and I'm like, man, I'm hoping they just get like a sniff of the playoffs this year.
Oh, I don't think. I think they may win a playoff round game. They're right now they're headed down the path, unless something dramatic, and I do mean dramatic, would happen.
Right. That
they're going to be the North champion. Okay. So, and if their record continues to be good, and they end up, let's say they end up 12-4 for the season, they're probably going to get it. They'll get an off week. And at the beginning of the playoffs, so they won't be playing wild card.
Right.
And then it'll be an issue if they have the best record in the AFC, then they're going to host a lesser team, in the next two rounds.
Right.
So bottom line is, I don't know. I understand what you're saying, Greg, but then again, I don't see anybody in the AFC right now that's really, in my opinion, lighting them up. I watch Kansas City, because I tend to think that they're probably one of the better teams in the AFC.
Right.
And Dallas Cowboys handled them yesterday, and they just could not get that offense untracked against the Cowboys. They did for a little while, but not for an entire game, and therefore, who else is there? It's basically the Steelers and the Patriots
but
here in the postseason.
Watch out for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
That's what I was saying, too.
Well, that's a good point, Jimmy. Yeah, you're right.
They're very quietly, emerging in the NFL and especially in the AFC this season. Meanwhile, Dave, I look at their schedule going from this Sunday on. Indianapolis this Sunday, Tennessee, Green Bay, at Cincinnati, then Baltimore, New England, at Houston and Cleveland. 3 or 4 of those teams scare me because those are the teams that are likely to trip up the Steelers. Obviously, the Bengals always play as tough as if it's a Super Bowl. And then that following week, you got Baltimore and then New England. So that's why I think I asked you the question about the
I don't, I understand your concerns, but I do not see Cincinnati as I did in the past. I mean, they're a failing team.
That's not there. Okay.
I just don't see them. I mean, Jacksonville handled them easily.
Yeah.
And I think the Steelers are going to be able to handle them coming up. I mean, they put a beat down on them there at Heinz Field, primarily because they put a lot of pressure on quarterback there. Right. But bottom line is, I don't see that as a big game. At one time, I looked at that schedule and it's like, ooh, Green Bay. Well, hey, there's no, their quarterback's down.
Aaron Rodgers is
so,
out,
Aaron Rodgers being out. So you look at those games, and I don't really see a particular problem there. Maybe Houston, but I don't think so.
Not at this
I don't see the Texans as any kind of problem, or not the Texans, but the Titans as any kind of problem for them. So I don't really see anything in their schedule to the end of the season that's a serious, one that I can almost sit here and count now in the loss column, other than New England.
New England, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Jimmy, what's your prediction for this Sunday when the Steelers, of course, take on the, I want to say Baltimore, Indianapolis Colts? Your prediction score?
Be a close game, but Steelers are going to prevail 24-20.
All right, and Dave, what's your prediction on this weekend's game?
I'm picking Steelers 35 to, I'll give them 17, 35-17.
All right. Hey, best of luck to the Steelers. It's Monday Night Sports Talk here on the airnetwork.net. You can join us, 814-506-0609. Got about a half an hour yet, 814-506-0609. Jimmy, let me just tell you this. Carson Wentz continues to impress, and the Eagles continue to dominate. The odds are that they could end up in the Super Bowl. What are your thoughts on the Eagles?
Wow. No, feel bad for the Cleveland Browns because they passed up on this guy.
Oh, how about it? Cleveland Browns passed up on everybody, so let's forget about the Cleveland Browns.
No, but back to your question. No, the Eagles, they're like I said off air, the game that you have to watch for the Eagles are the LA Rams.
Yeah.
The LA Rams, that team's for real. We don't know too much about the Rams.
Yeah.
Watching them this week against the pitiful Giants.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Oh my God. That's all I'm going to say. Jared Goff in his second year. Wow. And you're going to have the top two quarterbacks from last year's draft.
Oh yeah.
Battling it out.
That's
the game you got to watch. But the Eagles, with their record, they're hot right now.
Hey.
They're the hottest team in the league. And the week coming up, they have a bye week this week, but then they come back and play the Cowboys. That's going to be a key game.
That's the game I want to watch. But listen,
that's the game right there.
Watching that game yesterday, and I did get a chance to watch it, Dave, there was a familiar name running for the Eagles yesterday, and I thought, is this Jay Ajayi, the same guy that played for the Dolphins? A couple years ago.
Yeah, they just did a trade. They just pulled off, and the Eagles got the big end of the trade.
How electric was his performance yesterday, Dave? That was just incredible. My God, they put it together.
All I got to say is the Eagles are almost a stone-cold lock. Obviously, their game against Dallas is going to be huge.
Yeah.
That's the one on their schedule coming up that they may conceivably have problems with. But the one thing that has stood out to me with the Eagles is both defense and offense. That's a real well-rounded team. And Carson Wentz, I mean, and not that anybody, we can make fun of people that passed on him and everything, but I don't know that Carson Wentz was necessarily the go-to guy that you wanted to get in the draft.
Yeah.
My God, yesterday he was unbelievable. I don't think I saw him throw one pass that was not catchable by the receiver he intended it for.
Oh, my goodness.
It was amazing.
Hey, we were talking about the performance of Ajayi yesterday. They mentioned that he'd made a touchdown, and, of course, he had 8 carries for 77 yards, and they were just talking about how splendid he was, and he talked about the special offensive line. Jimmy, speak a little bit about that line, because I saw them moving people halfway down the field yesterday. It's unreal.
Yeah, and that's what's making Carson Wentz a stud that he is. It's not the playmakers around him, it's that offensive line. Whenever you have a good offensive line, your quarterback's going to stand out.
Right.
And that's what it is. The Eagles have how last year the Cowboys had. They said they had how the Cowboys had the best offensive line.
Yeah.
It's the Eagles' turn this year.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the Eagles' turn, and it always seems to me that the best offensive lines come out of that division.
Hey, Dave, when we talk about Carson Wentz, would you consider him a candidate for the MVP this year?
Absolutely. No doubt in my mind.
Definitely. You think he's one of the front runners? Because I'm not sure, Jimmy, maybe you can add like some of the other players that we should be watching as far as the MVP this year.
Tom Brady.
Obviously, he's always
Tom
up
Brady.
there.
Yeah, he's the MVP every year.
Yeah, exactly.
Until he retires, his name will be up in the MVP race.
But Wentz has a pretty good chance, though, does he not?
But Wentz, oh my God, yeah, Wentz has a very good chance with what? What's he have? 17 touchdowns so far.
Oh yeah.
He's words can't describe how good this kid is. And the Eagles lucked out with him. The Eagles, their defense is good. They just have an all-around team. They signed Jeffrey in the offseason away from Chicago. So,
right. Well,
yeah, this is a good team. And look for them to make a deep run into the playoffs.
Well, the
only two stumbling blocks would be the LA Rams, like I said before, and if they run into the New Orleans Saints.
Normally, I don't want to give props to the Eagles fans in this part of Pennsylvania, but I got to give it to them now. They got everything to shout about. So we'll be watching that very carefully, because if the Steelers continue to do what they're doing, bless you, and let's say the New England somehow sputters, wouldn't that be something, Dave, for an all-Pennsylvania Super Bowl?
Yes, it could happen. You can keep dreaming. I don't think it will, but I gotta see how the Steelers play the Patriots in the regular season game to see if they actually have some way. Because honest to goodness, it wouldn't matter if they had a 35-point lead at halftime. I'm thinking in the back of my mind, they're going to lose this. There isn't a lead that they have against New England that's ever big enough. Unless the Patriots don't show up to play the second half, I'm never confident.
Yeah, unless Tom doesn't come out second half, and maybe he's on the phone with Giselle or whatever her name is.
If you look at the Steelers-Patriots game, let's say the Steelers do beat New England, Belichick is going to be in that film room studying every little angle whenever they do meet each other in the playoff. That's the way Bill Belichick's mind works.
And that's a good thing because he's a winning coach. And I would like to see more coaches like Belichick. And I believe that Peterson has that same kind of sort of like demeanor, if you will, the guy that's down in Philadelphia there. So we'll see how things turn out. Meanwhile, Dave, let's move on to football locally, talking about Bearcat football. Bearcats were sitting out last week as they had a bye in the quarterfinals of the District 6 playoffs in AAA. Meanwhile, this week, they take on the Juniata Indians. I do believe we saw them already this year. And anyhow, what do you think about the Bearcats as they move on here into, I believe it's the semifinals on Friday night?
Right, it will be the semifinals, and it's going to be, I look for the team to, having the week off. I know there were a couple of injuries there. I never did get to hear how and exactly what the injury to Jarris Warner was.
Yeah, nobody ever reports on those anyhow.
Yeah, in the game up there at Warren. But I do know he was on crutches at the end of the game after he went off the field, and he spent the rest of the game on the sidelines with crutches. So I'm not sure what exactly got hurt, but he is an integral part of that team. Make no mistake about it. And so outside of that, though, I think everybody else is in really good shape. And I look for the Bearcats are going to win this game. It's going to be an interesting to see who they would play for the championship,
right?
Assuming that they beat Juniata. I'm sure there's nobody that's assuming that, especially if your last name's Hootie. But bottom line is, if this team performs that the way it has for a majority of the season, maybe minus the game against Central, and that offense gets to racking up the yardage, I think they get by Juniata with no problem. And then it's the question is, who do they take on then for the championship?
Oh, yeah, and I think right now Forest Hills is out there because they had a bye last week, and I'm not sure who they even faced this week. I know Chad has all that information, and you can go to the our website because he has a preview of the upcoming games and, of course, District 6 football. All you have to do is go to theairnetwork.net and click on the front page, or go to page 2, and you'll see those stories there. Meanwhile, we'll have the game, Dave, at 6:45 on Friday. You and Chad will be in the stands, or we actually have a booth for you, don't we?
Yeah, I think so. Unless they tore it down since we were there last.
No, we still have the same seats for you. But
yeah, we'll be up there in the booth on the home side of the field.
All right, in the Gerd Zalzik press box. That's what it's called officially. Yeah, even though we cover his name, some of it with our sign from time to time. But hey, that's all right. It's all right because Gerd's sitting in there and his son Mike, they're working on the clock and they're the timers, and they've been involved with the Huntingdon program for over 70, 80 years. And so we thank them, the Zalzik family. It's all good. Hey, meanwhile, Dave, we're going to take a break along with Jimmy Ty. He's in Selinsgrove. I'm Greg Banks in the studio, and Dave Shannon's live in Altoona. Chad States, by the way, had some family business tonight. He'll hopefully join us next Monday night, but you will definitely hear him here on the air on Friday night as the Bearcats take on the Juniata Indians at Warbets Field. We'll be on the air at 6:45 and the kickoff at 7. It all happens here on the airnetwork.net and 94.1 FM. Meanwhile, it's Monday Night Sports Talk. Give us a buzz. 814-506-0609 is the number. That's 814-506-0609. We'll be right back.
Sometimes facts are hard to face. Statistics show that obesity is a problem in the United States, and it's not getting any better. At Simone Family Chiropractic, we understand this problem. We also know that obesity leads to very serious health problems later in life. There is a way to cleanse your body and get back to optimum health. It is called the Doctor-Supervised Chirothin System, and it teaches you how and what to eat in the real world. Call us at Simone Family Chiropractic at 814-643-2616 or stop in and see us at 613 Washington Street in Huntingdon, across from All American Pizza, or find us on Facebook.
Call Austin Smith Heating and Plumbing for affordable heating, plumbing, and drain cleaning services in Huntingdon. Count on 12 years of insured excellent service when it comes to heating, plumbing, ventilation, and drain cleaning. Call Austin Smith Heating and Plumbing, available evenings and weekends at an affordable rate. Call 814-506-5128. That's 506-5128 for Austin Smith Heating and Plumbing in Huntingdon. The Huntingdon Moose Family Center 223 is the heart of the community with loads of activities all year round. The Huntingdon Moose Family Center 223 proudly sponsors social events for members and their guests, plus you can enjoy their Friday food specials beginning at 5 p.m. every Friday. Saturday entertainment, plus check our website for other exciting upcoming events all year round. There's always something happening at the Huntingdon Moose Family Center 223, the heart of the community. Join us today.
D.C. Goodman & Sons and the Goodman family are committed and dedicated to excellence by supporting quality education and athletics for all youth of Huntingdon County. For over 3 generations, D.C. Goodman & Sons and their staff of quality tradesmen have provided excellent service in the installation of plumbing, mechanical and industrial piping, electrical, and fire sprinkler systems. Residential services are also available. D.C. Goodman & Sons and the Goodman family will continue to serve the community, and thank you for your support. The Goodman family wishes you the best to all area students in your pursuit of excellence.
It's Monday Night Sports Talk on the airnetwork.net and 94.1 FM in Huntingdon. Welcome to another Monday, and I'm Greg Banks with about 20 minutes left, by the way. If you'd like to call us, 814-506-0609. That's 814-506-0609. I think it's at 20 minutes, actually about 12 minutes. Joining me with Dave Shannon in Altoona, we've got Jimmy Ty in Selinsgrove tonight. And guys, before we go any further, we wanted to acknowledge the World Series because we didn't really get a chance to talk about the finale, at least, Dave. I know it was a special 7th game, and what a special team those Houston Astros are. My goodness, unreal.
Well, and for those of us that are Pirates fans, who were fans of Charlie Morton,
oh my!
I am glad he had that opportunity. What was even more amazing was I watched the post-game interview with him.
Yeah,
and he couldn't barely got through the interview that he had there in the post game.
So emotional.
He was that choked up about it. So, man, though, I mean, that's who I wanted to see win it. I think it was great for Houston. I actually even sat here and watched the parade in Houston on Friday then, when they had the parade and all the activities they had going on down there.
They just had a cast of characters, Dave. I mean, people that were lovable, like Altuve, and just when you looked at these guys, you're like, it was in their heart to win Game 7. It really was.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it was apparent there once Morton got on track, and that was especially good to see, too, because I think one of the things that, if you can say there was a bad thing about the World Series, normally you think about pitching as the big thing that, is going to carry a World Series. And, boy, neither team had pitching that you really felt that you could count on. I was shocked that Yu Darvish was never as effective in the series as he was in the regular season. I mean, he just didn't have it. And I can't imagine that at that point, you're tired out by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
So, I just watched pitcher after pitcher come out there on the mound. Their starters coming in the middle innings.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, this doesn't say a whole lot about baseball here when the pitching's been this bad. But then to see Charlie Morton throw 4 innings of just absolutely drop-dead great, it ended up being relief, but he could have started that game and maybe ended up with a no-hitter at the rate he was pitching. Jeez.
It was really unreal. Yeah, it was unreal. Jimmy, your thoughts on the World Series and those games? Of course, it was back and forth. And we all said from the beginning about pitching, we thought the Dodgers had the better of the two squads because they went deeper in their bullpen. But as Dave said, man, they just started pulling everybody out there the last couple of games. It seemed
the Francisco Liriano, former Pirate,
another one
champion. We forgot about him on the team. He pitched 3 pitches and he gets a ring.
Not bad.
Not
bad at all. Charlie Morton, like Dave said, outstanding. But you knew the Dodgers were going to lose this series.
Well, listen.
From the beginning, and I'll give you the reason why.
Okay, go ahead.
The Kardashian curse.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot that. Weren't they holding some balls in the outfield?
They were holding, the Kardashian curse.
Think
of it like this, okay? Think of it like this.
Oh, my God.
One Kardashian girl was dating the one Cavalier player.
I know, yeah.
Cavaliers get whooped in the NBA playoffs.
Yeah. Hey, listen, Jimmy.
It's a Kardashian curse. That's what it is.
Well, it's a curse.
It's like the Bieber curse.
Well, it's sort of like a curse, Jim, only because, Dave, if you remember the father, God love him, he's been dead for years. He was the defense attorney, I believe, for OJ. That's where it all started.
Part of the dream team.
He was part of that dream team. And you notice all those guys are now dead except for OJ. That's number one. The Kardashians and the Jenners and OJ and all those people were friends. I know we're getting away from sports here, but that man has to be rolling over in his grave. Seriously, when he sees his daughters sort of like kind of tracing around, but they're making millions of dollars. So, I don't know, Jimmy, if it was a jinx or not. But guess what? It worked out for Houston Astros. Do you see this as one of those teams, and I'll ask both you and Dave, do they have sustaining, because they seem like a young team. I mean, like they could be.
Oh my God! Yeah, they have the power. They have all these players: George Springer, Altuve, Carlos Correa, Alex Bregman, all under contract for cheap money.
Yeah, but Dave, here's the deal.
For years to come.
Didn't we say that about the Cubs last year? Like, oh my God, they could have a dynasty here. and what happened to the Cubs?
And that's a good point, Greg, because it all falls on your manager then. Is he going to be able to keep the enthusiasm up or whatever it was in the clubhouse that kept that team in the state of mind that they were throughout the course of the season? And, I never saw that with the Cubs. I even got to the point where I said the Cubs don't deserve to be in the World Series.
You did say
because
that.
It was like they took half to 2/3 of the season off.
Yeah.
And then finally decide, okay, we'll make a good run here at the end of the season, and then we'll go on into the postseason. Well, you know what? Winning is an attitude that's there from day one, and in the case of the Houston Astros, they had that from day one.
Yeah,
they were, they came out strong. At one time, they had the best record in Major League Baseball, and then the Dodgers got on an unreal tear.
Yeah, they sure did.
Where they just won so many games. And so, it's kind of tough to overcome that. But, the bottom line is I think Houston's going to be around for a while. Like Jimmy said, you got the guys under contract. And then if they're able to come back again and get involved in a World Series next year, I think those guys might be willing to entertain, even though there's going to be humongous dollars dangled in front of them to get them away from the Astros.
Right.
As long as Astros management is willing to pay what their fair market value is,
Right.
I look for those guys to stay there. They really do seem like a family to me.
Yeah, and now the Astros winning that seventh game, all-important 5-1 against the LA Dodgers to win the World Series. Their first, by the way, in their history. And Dave, I might date myself, but I remember when they were the Colt 45s. And
Me too. Yeah.
We were like back in the 60s, maybe 62, 63. We were just kids then, but we were paying attention maybe to baseball. So anyhow, best of luck. Before I wrap up baseball, let me ask you guys this. Jimmy, I'll get your opinion. Maybe Dave, give me an idea of who might be the MVP of the National League this year. Giancarlo? I mean, let me try to find out who some of the...
I got him right here.
Who do you have there? Stanton, Goldschmidt?
Yeah, Stanton, Goldschmidt,
Right.
and Joey Votto.
Okay, Votto. So out of those three guys, who do you think really, Jimmy, would you select as the MVP?
I would go with Giancarlo Stanton as my MVP.
Okay. And Dave, who are you thinking?
If I had a vote, I'd vote for Goldschmidt because of the fact that what he did led them to the postseason. And I know it's a team, it's a team game and everything. But if you're talking about the MVP for the league, it's like, well, where did he get you? How far did he get you in your season? And so I would tend to lean on Goldschmidt.
And conversely, Jimmy, who do you think? And let me ask you guys this: the American League. Who do you have for the American League MVP this year?
Altuve.
Easy.
Oh,
Easy Altuve.
Okay, good. What a likable
then,
guy. Yeah.
And then the Cy Young,
Yeah.
it's Kershaw, and then two Washington Senator players,
Max
Strasburg and Scherzer. I'm going to go with Kershaw.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then in the AL, you have to go with Lights Out Chris Sale. Over 200 strikeouts this year.
Okay.
But
he didn't have the best postseason.
But he didn't have the best postseason, yeah. But then you look at Rookie of the Year.
Right.
Cody Bellinger.
Okay.
Paul DeLong of the Cardinals, and our own Josh Bell.
Oh, okay. Really?
Josh
Bell, yeah.
Is a
if
finalist.
Cody Bellinger hadn't had the season he had,
Yeah.
probably Bell would be the guy you were hearing the most about.
Bell would be the hands-down favorite then at that point. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we will talk more about this because before these guys are selected, I'm sure we'll do some more shows so we can kind of get in-depth in it, and especially during Hot Stove for baseball. Dave, let me ask you right now, the Penguins taking on the Coyotes in Pittsburgh. The Penguins been struggling.
Tomorrow.
Is that
Yeah,
tomorrow?
on
They've
Tuesday.
They've been struggling quite a bit this year.
It's very bad. And the problem with the Penguins is their offense,
Okay.
which has everybody perplexed because, so Nick Bonino's gone. Well, that's one center on your team.
Right.
You lost him. Does that really make that team that much different? I don't think it does. Do I think there's some guys putting extra pressure on themselves, trying to step up to do things? One of the guys I think that's kind of overdoing it just a little bit is Chris Letang.
Okay.
Arguably one of the best defensemen in the league, but right now he's just trying too hard to make things happen. He's not playing hockey.
Yeah.
He's really thinking hockey when he's out there on the ice, and it's to a degree, you play hockey like you play baseball.
Got to be natural.
And that's why you have all those crazy celebrations after a goal. I'm not saying it's a kid's game per se.
No.
But, that's the kind of mindset that you have to have when you're out there playing hockey. You can't just over-concentrate on things. So the big problem, once again, with them is the offensive output. And now their power play is fine. Power play has been doing a good job. It's the regular 5-on-5 stuff that they're having trouble with.
Yeah.
So that's the big issue with the Penguins here as this season has unfolded is how do you get the offense untracked? And I know that Mike Sullivan's been trying various different combinations. I think maybe there's a point where you have to go back to what got you there a year ago because he hasn't had and by the way, Connor Sheary Your name's Connor Sheary. Your name was Connor Sheary for 2 seasons. I'm not calling you Sherry.
I was wondering what the big brouhaha was over his name. It's like,
I have no idea. He asked that's the way it be pronounced now. Well, if
Sherry.
that was a problem,
Why didn't he
Connor,
say that from the
maybe
beginning?
you should have addressed that 2 frickin' years ago.
Well, now, okay. So now we're going to have to call him Tony Dorsett instead of Tony Dorsett
Yeah, right.
or whatever it was. I mean, we had to change how we said his last name, too. It's like,
Yeah.
come on, man. We've been saying your name the right way. See, you're going to come up next week and say, it's not Dave Shannon, it's Dave Shannon. Oh,
Shannon.
come on. And then we're like, yeah, get the hell out of here.
Greg.
But anyway, the one thing, that line last year was so productive for him when you had Crosby, Sheary, and Gensel together. And Gensel's not been up on that line for a while now. They're trying to, I think, give him some depth because it's one of those things, if you're around Sidney Crosby, chances are you're going to score a few goals at some point along the way.
Hey, well, listen, we'll continue our conversation about the Penguins because we got a long season, Dave.
I would like to say, Sealands Grove Field Hockey ranked 15th nationally.
Well, that is congratulations to them. They've been doing it for years, I heard, too, huh?
The Seals.
The Seals.
All right. Hey, thank you, Jimmy Ty in Sealands Grove, Dave Shannon in Altoona. Dave, I'll talk to you Friday night at the Juniata game, huh? All right, guys, thanks again. We'll join us next Monday for another edition of Monday Night Sports Talk here on the airnetwork.net and 94.1 FM in Huntingdon. Thank you for listening.